Jazakumullah khair. We have a great set of questions. So the first one I'll ask for Sheikh Jasser Auda. It's a combination of a couple of questions. The question is, how do we deal with or consider punishments that are considered overly harsh or outdated nowadays? And similarly, how do we promote issues that are considered modern, like LGBT and others that are more modern now? And so how do we reconcile these two in our current day and age?
Issues that are considered
either outdated or coming up and becoming modern.
Well, the issue of punishments is, can you hear me? It's a different way. The issue of punishments is part of the Sharia, but I don't think we should busy ourselves with hypothetical questions that have no reality in the polity and the legal spheres that we talk about. Why are we asking about the legal punishments in America? This is something that doesn't apply in this part of the world, because there is a difference between Sharia and Qanun. There is a difference between what's in the Sharia and what people agree to become a law. And this part of the world, people agree on criminal punishment going through the process. In terms of harshness and so on, I don't question that. Much of what is considered part of these criminal punishments is not really authentically part of that. For example, the stoning that is considered to be part of the hudud or the criminal punishments. I wrote extensively about that, and that was part of the law of the Torah rather than the law that Muhammad ﷺ had brought, and that it was abrogated in that sense. When you study this aspect of the Islamic law, you're talking about punishments as maximum punishments, not as everyday punishments. And you're talking about them as deterrents, really, rather than something that are going to be applied as, as they applied in the 20th century under those dictatorships, Saddam, Hussein, and Numeri. And these people, when they applied this, or the Taliban, or the Daesh, these guys, when these people apply the hudud, they don't apply the hudud proper as they are in the Sharia. They apply them for political ends, against the opposition, to clear the land for some other occupation. They have all sorts of agendas. This is not the application of the hudud proper. So the application of the hudud is not a question really that we should busy ourselves with here. And yes, they are strict, and they have a different philosophy, but they don't really apply. In terms of new issues like LGBT, this is not new. Societies has this kind of sin since the dawn of humanity. We should differentiate again between what is sinful and how we deal with somebody who is a sinner. We deal with somebody who is a sinner with the mercy of Islam and with the morals of Islam, knowing that every human is a sinner, as the Prophet ﷺ said. So with mercy and with good dealings and without discrimination and so forth. Yet in terms of the law, in terms of the Islamic law, there is a sin that is sex outside marriage between males or females or any of that. And that sex outside marriage is not supposed to be legalized under the Islamic law. The majority of the society agree to legalize that. That is their business. We could oppose that kind of law based on our Islamic principles. But we should not discriminate against people or mistreat anybody, because we are all, in a journey in our way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, but another question for Sheikh Yaser.
So, for struggling Muslims who say that the Torah and the Bible are also scriptures from one true creator, why can't we follow these scriptures, and why does Islam have to be the only straight path? And the question continues: how best can we respond to this, and specifically when you deal with non-Muslims and so on? Well, first of all, the claim that Islam have to be the only straight path. As a matter of fact, as every organized religion, in a sense, they believe that the only straight path to God, in that sense. So Islam is not unique in claiming that, you know what, we have that. Although it's mentioned clearly in the Quran, obviously. وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِ مُسْتَقِيمًا, that this is the straight path, so follow it. So it's clear in the Quran that it is indeed the straight path in that sense. The second thing is that the Torah and the Bible are also from the scriptures from the true Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're talking about the original Torah of Musa and the original Injil or Gospel of Isa. What we call today the Bible is not the original Torah of Musa, the original Injil of Isa. It's not the original thing. So if you say that we should follow them, obviously the first thing you need to discuss over here is define the witnesses, which means we need to make sure to agree on that these witnesses, the Quran, the Torah, the Gospel of Isa and so on, they're authentic. And as if they believe that they're authentic, then we can after that discuss, okay, what principles are there. So for us Muslims, we believe that the Quran was preserved, and we mentioned that earlier in the lecture, but the Torah and the Injil were not promised to be preserved. Why? Because there's a sequel that was coming after, which is the Quran. So the Quran has all the teachings of the original Gospel of Isa and also the original Torah of Musa, collectively obviously, and was abrogating many of the things that's supposed to be changed after that. So that's why we say the Quran is so. So the answer to this question simply is, you need to define your witnesses. If someone says so, I said, okay, fine. Prove to me, first of all, that the book you're choosing your evidences from is authentic. But to come and talk about the Torah is not authentic yet, or the Injil or the Gospel is not authentic, that's a whole different argument. It's not the place to discuss it here. No.
We have another question here. In that today's societies and communities, we fall back on cultural views to dictate our lives and responses. How do we go back to the sacred text, or how can we go back and reform our communities to go back to the sacred text of the Quran?
Well, the culture that you mentioned is not necessarily in contradiction with the sacred text. I mean, there are things that are in contradiction, and there are things that are not. So, and every culture differs. Within Islam is a multicultural faith in that sense. So you fall back to the culture, you check whether what you are doing in the framework of the culture is right from the Islamic point of view or not. If it goes against the principles of Islam, then this is part of your culture that you have to give up. But most of the cultural practices that people, the daily habits and so on, are compatible with Islam. Islam is a very wide and very flexible platform. I'm not sure if this answers I mean, what is...
No. So a question here, I'm reading a book by Al-Ghazali, and it talks about humans having an animal and human spirit. Can you elaborate on the human spirit? What is it, and what will it go through in life and the afterlife and so on? I think that, I don't know if this is the English translation or the English word that was used in the book for the human nafs, because the Arabic text speaks about a nafs. And what tabi'ah, which means the nature. So there's an animalistic nature over here and a human nature. And the word nafs is different than the word ruh. A ruh is one. It comes to the ruh, which means the soul is one. And that soul, by the way, is pure, just to let you know. So the soul itself doesn't sin in that sense. A ruh in itself is pure. It's a creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought from heaven to us here in this earth. But obviously when you put the soul into the human chamber, which is the body, that combination between the soul and the body is where we start having the functionality of the soul. Part of it is nafsiyya. So we have these human instincts, and then you have the human basically kind of like, aspiration to perfection, which is basically al-malaikiyya, to become like an angel, perfection and so on. We can't achieve that in this world, obviously, because we're human beings. Regardless how much we try to reach that angelic perfection, we're going to always fall short. And the human perfection over here is that whenever you make a mistake as a human being, what do you do with it? Fix it. Learn from it. Don't repeat that. That's how you become a perfect human being. You cannot be completely perfect without sin. So how is it going to go? What kind of experiences goes through? Of course, obviously, like I said, it's not the soul itself. The talk of Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala speaks about different things. It's not about the soul. It's about the nature of human being. Wallahu a'lam. Now.
Can do two more questions, inshallah, one for Sheikh Jasser. Does subscribing to feminism go against Islam? Is this a social movement considered unnecessary or unacceptable because Islam already defines women's rights?
Well, no, it doesn't. But actually, we need to, when we deal with movements that do not originate from the Islamic perspective, we need to differentiate between things that we subscribe to and things that we do not subscribe to. So to be a Muslim feminist, there is nothing wrong about this. I mean, to really subscribe to the general principles and causes of feminism, but you don't have to necessarily agree with every feminist with what they preach or what they believe in. There are certain Islamic principles, and the other principles that people invent are subject to the Islamic principles. You could subscribe to democracy, but not everything in democracy is correct. And democracy has its flaws, and you should be able to critique it. But you could be democratic in the sense of coming from an Islamic perspective, thinking that this is a good way of governance, of organizing polity. So you could be democratic, you could be feminist, you could be humanist in that sense, but then not everything in that philosophy you would agree with. And that is a bridge from the Islamic perspective to other perspectives. And that bridge would be also a common ground between you and other people who work with you towards causes of feminism, causes of human rights, causes of environmentalism, and so forth. This is also part of our manifestation of our Islamic principles.
Last question, inshallah.
Okay. So how would I guide a young adult through a faith question? What religion has the truth? If we say non-Muslims should learn and read about Islam, should we also look them up? Aren't all people with different faiths because their parents brought them up in the same way? So eventually the question is, when people grow up basically, should Muslims also explore other religions the way we demand from non-Muslims to explore Islam as well? The question is really kind of like irrelevant because it's already happening. Meaning, whether we like it or not, our youth are actually exploring other ways. And they're going out of their way even to challenge some of the Muslim ways. Maybe because of the tradition, the culture that is not from Islam that is causing these young men and women to question the sacred text again. So it goes back again to our fault, our errors as human beings in trying to explain what's considered sacred or not. So I'm not saying that people they should go explore the truth all the way to the end, but you're going to have to start from a certain point. What is that point? And that's where we say that we have the sacred text, the Quran, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and from there you can start exploring and see if any other maybe faith or any other religion has, I don't want to say alternative facts, but to say if they have actually a truth in there. And you will always find a truth here and there, but collectively speaking or as one unit, it is actually in the Quran, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakumullah khair everyone for attending. Jazakumullah khair for giving us these kind words.